Golf Committee meeting in Harwich. We have our invited guest, Roman Greer, and I would like to start the agenda by approving 3 sets of minutes. The revised August 23rd minutes, September 13th minutes, and the minutes from October 17th. So if we could look at the first, August 23rd, and if anybody would like to make a motion for approval.
I can make a motion to approve them.
Okay. Anybody would like to second?
Okay. I would second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 I'm not in favor, but I could make a comment.
Then why don't you make a comment?
Okay, sure. I probably will vote to approve. It's just that I don't feel that the meeting notes quite characterize the purpose and the intent of the meeting. And we had the opportunity to revise them, and I don't think it really captured. We go to a long form, and the long form is really tough for anyone doing the minutes. But this was a specific meeting, and I don't think it attempted to do excerpts of what was said and left out some important parts. I think in general, the meeting minutes tried to capture it, but again, in the long form, it is extremely difficult. So, maybe in the future, we may want to take meeting minutes in a slightly different, less.
I think they're going to do that
Okay.
too, Carol.
Okay.
So-
That would be great.
Yeah,
So I guess if anyone wanted to really see what was happening, they can go to the video.
right, exactly. So, all approve? Approve? Second, sets of minutes, the September 13th minutes. Look for somebody to approve.
I would make a motion to approve those minutes.
Thank you, Paul. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Steve. All in favor? Aye.
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 October 17th minutes. Approve?
So move to approve.
Thank you, Paul. Steve, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. I'm going to let Roman give, he'll have 2 reports, his director's report, and then a report from Sean on winter projects, and I'm going to ask him to wait till the end of new business. I'd like to start the new business by personally and on behalf, I'm sure, of the Golf Committee, I'd like to thank Clem Smith and John Crook for their years of service to this committee. Thank you.
John has left as well.
Yes,
Madam
John
Chair,
Crook.
John has left as well?
John has resigned,
I had not heard that.
yes. He resigned last Friday.
Well, I think, I would hope we would not only do the motion, but some sort of a letter to them as well, and thank them for their service,
Yes,
if we could.
I think that's appropriate. I've also included in the new business, and I'm not going to go over this now, but I did send to everybody the charter of the town of Harwich and specifically pointed out the responsibilities of the golf committee. I think that it's been a very challenging time right now for the committee. I think it was brought up at the select board meeting on the 26th, which was sort of not our brightest moments, I guess. So I think it's really important that we understand what our position is as a golf committee. I could tell we are advisory. And I think that as the committee gets filled, what I would like to see, probably, there are 2 positions open now, and hopefully they'll be filled shortly, that we would have a workshop in the winter, probably in March, put on by a select board member who would give us a workshop on what our responsibilities are, so that we're clear and that things will not happen as they have in the past. I think I want to thank Roman. We had a great meeting last week, Roman. I had a spreadsheet of every single thing that we have been doing as a golf committee, and I really feel that Roman and I can work together in the best interest of the club and the town of Harwich. So I thank you, Roman, for that.
Martha, I don't know if this is appropriate at this time, but I'd like to try to understand. I mean, if you look at that section, basically all it says is we're an advisory board.
Right.
For policies. But I wasn't able to make the last 2 meetings because of outpatient surgery, but my understanding is, I'd like to question, because I think this is a policy. My understanding of the last meeting was the board was 3-3 on the rates that Roman proposed.
Right.
And I guess my question would be, do we have any, should that simply have been, okay, we're 3-3 and we pass it on and let the selectmen decide? I would have hoped, because if I was here, I would have also voted against Roman's rates. I have nothing against you, Roman, but I didn't feel the increase in the member cart fees was appropriate. But should we try to move towards a change that would get the support of the board, or is that all we do? Is it, I wouldn't want to be on the board if all we're doing is rubber stamping what Roman wants.
Mhm.
Nothing again, Roman, nothing against you. But I would have felt that maybe there's some ground where we could have reached a situation where maybe more of the board would have voted for it if we changed some of the recommendations. So I don't know whether, I'm trying to understand what the policies are. And to me, the rates are sort of a policy.
Mm-hmm.
And I would hope that we have some negotiations or some ability to influence some of the policies so that, you know, we can reach a consensus among the committee as to what these results are.
Right.
So I don't know whether we're just supposed to accept what Roman proposes, or are we able to influence what the proposals are?
This is my perception, and I think there were other people. I was at that meeting when Roman proposed his rates and fees. I'm not sure if the board the select board responded in a way that was a little clouded because of our mistakes, Jack, in the past.
Yep.
I really felt, I don't know, a lot of people were there. Maybe they can support me on this. And it was very clear. See, I sort of agree with you, Jack, in that the committee, we discussed the rates and fees for 2 meetings. And the general consensus was that the thing that we opposed to was, and people, the town spoke, we spoke, was particularly on not giving the Harwich members a benefit on certain items, such as the golf cart. But nothing was ever separated at this meeting. It was lumped as a whole. And half said no, half said yes. That had really nothing to do with Roman, because we're just advisory, Jack. And it was very clear when he presented it, they could have cared less whether we supported it or turned it down. He presented his rates and fees. He was up there for 2 minutes, right? And they said, we approve. And the woman, one of the select women said, which I didn't feel she had to, but she did, they are only an advisory committee, Roman, correct? She said that. So it was pretty clear, Jack, that we had I didn't feel we had any clout at all.
Well, Martha, one thing I can say that's happened in the past, though, there was one time, like, I think it was 5 years ago or so ago, that the golf committee had a recommendation on one particular item that was different than what I recommended, and we presented both to the selectmen, and they chose. That was one year.
Wasn't that on the Chatham?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, that was the only time we differed.
That's right.
And that differed from my
I remember
recommendation, and we
that.
presented both sides, and the selectmen made a decision.
Yep, you're right. I remember that. Yes, Steve.
My take on this is, and whether we have the workshop in March, for whatever it's worth, I'm probably not going to be around in the month of March, but so be it. We need to, at a workshop or in one of our meetings, we need to more clearly define what it's meant to be an advisory committee.
Yes, definitely.
We are in my take on it, we are an advisory committee. We provide a forum to discuss things. We provide the parliamentary rules to vote, et cetera, and we pass that advice on to Roman, who is the department head as the director of golf. Once it goes to Roman, it goes up the hierarchy. If Roman's boss, for lack of a better term, the town administrator, has delegated the final decision-making to Roman, as his right is to do so, then Roman decides. If the TA says, no, I want to make that decision, he or she has the right to make that decision. Ultimately, the ultimate decision maker is the select board, and they can determine what to do. We provide advice as an advisory board to Roman and to the TA and the select board. They can wholly ignore our advice. They can say, thank you very much for that advice, and I'm throwing it in the trash if they so choose. It's within their right to do so. We do not make policy. We do not make final decisions. That is not our role. If we want to give some advice, hopefully we back it up with some well-thought-out reasons, documented reasons, that are valuable for Roman in making his decisions and/or when he has to present to the TA and/or the TA has to present to the select board. But that's all we do. And my biggest concern right now is we are an advisory board, and hopefully it isn't this way with you, Roman, but I don't know for sure, and I wouldn't hold it against you one way or the other, where the hierarchy, at least at the TA and the select board, they don't want our advice. We have zero credibility with them right now. So we're an advisory board presenting advice to someone who doesn't feel that it has much credibility and really isn't looking for it. And we need to figure out what we need to do to change that, because until we change that, the committee's pretty moot.
I think we change it, Steve, by following the process. By following the process. And then we will earn respect. And then we can move forward. We'll have 2 new members to the golf committee. We can work together in the best interest of supporting Roman and supporting the town. I really do believe that. I think we need to put this behind us and to go forward. It's never good to look back and criticize ourselves for all the mistakes we made. Let's correct them and go forward.
But in order to address the mistakes we made, we need to talk about the mistakes we made and how we
Yes,
avoid them
We do,
going forward.
Steve, and I think that's why it would be helpful to, whether it's in the spring, have a workshop, bring in one of the select board meeting members, and have a collegial working workshop discussing the things that we are responsible for as a committee.
Do you think, though, it would be best served, the committee would be best served, if we discuss them whenever, first as a committee, and see if we are in consensus agreement with what we think our role is, so that when we go to this workshop, if the volunteer, for lack of a better term, from the select board differs from our interpretation, we as a collective, with hopefully consensus agreement, can talk about what those differences are, and at least we come to the table. And I agree wholeheartedly with this idea that we need to look forward, but we need to look back to understand the mistakes that we made, and where we went outside of the bounds, not just from a legal and procedural standpoint, but for an overall concept of what it is that we do.
Can I just add a couple of
Sure, Carol.
thoughts? First, our charge changed considerably within the year that I've only been on the committee a year and a half. From the time I started, partway through, there was a change in the charter. So what we were told we could do initially to what the charter is now saying now, and I disagree slightly just based on what I'm reading. There are 2 sentences that tell us what we do. The
Right.
first is, the committee shall recommend governing policies related to the maintenance and operation of the municipal golf course for consideration by the Board of Selectmen, period.
That was
The-
amended 2017.
That's not what was in, so that could be my misunderstanding, but what has always been and just recently taken down from the webpage in the town of Harwich which described our roles and responsibility, is very different. It does talk about being a policy-making entity with oversight of the day-to-day operation of Cranberry Valley. And it said, it is a partnership that works in conjunction with the Director of Golf and town government. So, for the common good of
Who
Harwich.
wrote that, Carol?
I have no idea, but it has been on our website for a very long time and taken down this month.
Because it should have an article number and when it was amended.
Yeah,
It is in the charter you provided us, it says that.
Right.
It gives the dates when it was amended.
Right.
Okay,
I think
But-
When
that,
it's appropriate, I have some comments.
but for whatever reason, this is what I looked at when I thought, gee, this is what I would like to do. I'd like to be helpful in whatever way. This sounds like a really good message for us. But this one, to tell you the truth, I don't quite understand what our full role and what we can do and what we can't do. And then it talks about Roman having the general powers of supervision of the golf course shall be under the day-to-day supervision of the town administrator within the scope of the general policy and direction established by the golf committee. That's what it said in what you sent.
Well, that's why I felt it would be important
Yeah.
to have somebody from the select board to
What
work,
does
to
that
work
mean?
with us and clarify. Paul, you wanted to mention.
Yeah, I would. I mean, I think it's healthy for all of us to, kind of express our view of it or the concerns that we have, and I think we're all having that opportunity. My experience in applying for and being interviewed by the selectmen and ultimately being appointed is a little bit different, I think, from Carol's. It was actually in this room where I was interviewed by, the nominating committee of the Board of Selectmen, and they choose whether they're gonna recommend somebody for consideration of the entire board. It was made very clear to me that the golf committee is advisory, and my understanding of advisory is, you listen to situations, you listen to proposals which the golf director presents to us, or which are brought to our attention by whatever circumstance. We've been talking about repairing things which need to be looked at and so forth. And fortunately, some of those seem to have made their way onto Sean's list, which we'll be talking about later. But they made it very clear it was advisory. But advisory is, what it is. You talk about it, you make some observations, say, gee, have you ever considered this? I remember we were going through the discussion about the food service. And a lot of us were anxious to get that out there as quickly as possible so we could nail down somebody who was good, and we had someone for a number of years that was very good, and we dreaded losing him. And so now we have someone new. But a lot of the things we talked about, I think, made their way into, the negotiations and the discussion because we recommended them, and the director of golf listened to us and proceeded accordingly. And the only thing I'll say is every level of government in Massachusetts, is organized. And in the case of, the state, it's the governor, and then the legislature makes proposals, and they can override the governor if they get a sufficient two-thirds vote. In a city, it's a mayor, usually a strong mayor like in Boston, but not always. We have a somewhat weak mayor system in the city of Worcester and in some others. When it comes to a town, if you have a three-man board, or three-person board, I should say, a three-person board or a five-person board, they are the executive of the town collectively. They run the town. They hire the town administrator, and the town administrator in turn hires department heads. So it's a clear delineation, and I can understand why the selectmen, schooled me, as it were, and understood, that none of us has all the answers, but they're looking for advice. I'm not quite as discouraged as some of you may be. I do think that we will be listened to when we make thoughtful and appropriate comments, and we have. And I think we've been listened to then, and I think we'll be listened to in the future. Martha, I agree, the future is strong
Yeah,
and positive.
I do
And I
too.
don't think we should get discouraged
No,
about anything that's ever occurred.
not at all.
Anything that was ever done here, I think, was done by people in
In
good
good
intention.
faith,
In good faith, thinking they were doing the right thing.
right.
And, you know, we're
Let's-
gonna do the same thing.
let's go
We're gonna try to
forward.
operate in good
Yeah,
faith.
I do too, and I think that the reason that the board really didn't take much stock in the rates and fees, and I agree with you too, Jack, that, you know, we had some things we would have liked to have pulled out of that and perhaps sent this is why we didn't vote for it, should you want to know. But the way the motion was made, it didn't give us an opportunity to say, oh, but could we say this, this, and this were the reasons why they weren't fully endorsed by all of the committee members. So that motion was made right in the very beginning, and it was impossible for us to do that. And then the board could have asked, well, why didn't 3 members approve? But they chose not to and needed to make a decision, and that was their choice.
Oh, and I think my take on things like that is that, and I think it goes to, and I'm not trying to jump ahead and start the workshop now per se, but I think it goes to one of the questions of inclusion. And I do not, in any manner whatsoever, want to cast aspersions on Clem and his leadership of the golf committee for many years. But there was far too much individual control, in my opinion, by the chairperson of the golf committee when it comes to the creation of the agenda, when it comes to things like the motions. One of the things that we typically don't seem to do, or historically in the past year or two haven't done, is when there are fundamental disagreements on a motion, the chair should offer up the opportunity to ask for a vote on that motion and then a potential reintroduction of a different motion to say, okay, we clearly don't have a quorum, a majority here, so let's talk about, is there any other way we can put our golf committee recommendation as advice to Roman that he can use or not use, and he can use in his presentation to the TA and or the Board of Selectmen. That sort of level of inclusion we've never had. I mean, the agenda used to get published just prior to the meeting. There was no input that I could see from any other committee members on what the agenda for the upcoming meeting would be. There was no real time where it could be posted on the golf committee website in advance for the public to review that agenda and offer suggestions for other agenda items to be added. And therefore, a revised agenda could come out prior to the meeting, still posted, so everybody, all committee members and the public could see it. Those things just didn't happen. It went through a single filter, and the filter decided whether or not it was in sync with his interpretation of the mission of the golf committee. And if it wasn't, it didn't make the agenda.
Madam
And-
Chair, I respectfully disagree with Steve. I can think of explicit times, and I can't give you chapter and verse, but I know I've seen emails in which members have said, hey, we would like to add X or Y to the agenda, and it was done. I mean, there have been times, you know, maybe not every single meeting, but the fact of the matter is, the former chair did try to include things when people brought it to his attention, and in my memory anyway. I mean, maybe others don't remember it, but I do.
And I agree with you, Paul, and I think that's why I really feel, Steve, we've got to go forward. I posted that agenda 5 days before I had to. I specifically, in that note to all of you, I said, anybody who has anything they want on the agenda, let's put it on there. And that's something that I will do every meeting. And that's what I'm saying. We have no right to criticize anybody that's been on this committee, that's given all of their time, and they have resigned in their own good faith for reasons that they have. We have got to move forward. And I would like this discussion to end right now on that note and continue with the meeting, because we will have opportunities to get together, to come together as a committee and do the right thing. I truly believe that. These people are two good people. Every one of you. We give our time and our energy to this golf course and to the town. We're not here for a self-serving reason. I joined because there was no woman on the golf committee, and Dennis begged me to get on 9 years ago, and I did. And the only reason I did was because I wanted to represent a segment of the golf course that was not represented. So I'm not here. Listen, I've done this. I'm way over my age to be sitting here with this. I just won't do it.
Well,
So-
I think you're right, Martha. Let's put, we all have different feelings about what has happened this past year. If we could just all just put it aside and respect one another and respect that we're going to have differences of opinions.
We
That's
should.
just the way it goes. But listen to each other and see if, I mean, boy, I certainly have my share of being wrong. And I will certainly admit to that. But let's just move forward in the very best way we can, respecting one another, listening to one another, being as transparent as we possibly can. And I think communication, getting to the root cause of issues, as if we could figure those things out as we move forward, I think we will be effective, and I think we will gain the respect that I think we actually all deserve, to tell you the truth, because we have worked quite hard.
I'm going to move Roman. I think it's a good time for you to talk about the calendar for
Sure.
next year and your report, and then Sean's report.
Okay, let me go right through all three of them?
Sure.
Okay, great. Everybody's had a copy of the 2023 tournament schedule. It's been in flux a little bit over the last couple of weeks because I've had some of the groups have changed their requested dates with us. But the latest version I just sent out on Friday is up to date. So I think when you look at that, the only things that really jump out are going to be the Harwich Police Association is once again requesting an event. They haven't had one since pre-pandemic. And then another one is the drive, chip, and putt qualifier, the only one on the Cape. Once that was not held last year by Mass Golf, but that's been another requested date that's been added back to our calendar. And you'll see Nauset Hockey that we just approved just like 2 months ago when they came to us with a late ask. They once again want to be requested the same corresponding date as this year. So, and then the Fall Cup and Spring Team women's events, I showed you an option 1 and option 2. When you sign up for those, you have to give them 2 option dates, and they
Right.
select one. So those are just the two options. Other than that, this is the same calendar we've had for years.
It's funny, it looked longer to me, Roman.
We added those few events. We added Nauset Hockey, and we added Harwich Police.
Didn't you add member guests too that we didn't have this past year?
No, that's, the member
That's
guest
the
is
woman's,
not
I
on it.
think.
Oh, okay,
Not member guest.
okay.
Roman, what's the 10/31 date, Halloween Superintendent's Revenge?
So, yes, we had that on this calendar, the calendar for events for this year also. That would just, that's a placeholder. We chose not to hold it this year, but that would be an internal, annual pass holder event we'd hold, probably, just to, it is what it says it is. That's an event that a lot of clubs will have where it's like, the hardest golf course they can set up, or we let the superintendent set up a difficult or different golf course. You play different tee boxes, you have a hole in the middle of a bunker. It's like a fun day. We didn't do it this year because we had to push back aeration due to weather conditions, and because of that, we chose not to promote it. But placeholder, because that is an event I think would be fun and people would enjoy, so we'd like to run that, and that we run out of the pro shop.
Any other questions?
Sounds good.
Like to move to approve
So
the
moved.
calendar?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Roma.
Thank you. Okay, I'll move on to the director's report. You've had this for a few weeks. This changed very little since I submitted for the November 15th meeting that was scheduled. But some of this information is a little bit dated. I'll go through it quickly. The Commissioner's Cup was held once again. Cranberry Valley against Captains. We held that at Cranberry Valley this year, and Cranberry Valley won the event.
What
And,
was the final score, Roma?
it was a pretty good beating. It was 46-31, I think,
Ooh.
Wow.
something like that. It was a pretty good beat, but as those events
I
usually
didn't
are,
contribute that.
and good camaraderie. I mean, very good camaraderie.
Oh,
with
it's a fun
captains,
time.
as always, and that was the last day that Jake's was open, and I think Jake's did a great job.
Yes, he
serving
did.
everybody. So,
You did a terrific
yeah,
job.
I got a lot of feedback from both captains, members, and our own, saying they did a great job. So, so they closed for the season on that day. I got a couple items
Roman,
for.
can I ask a question? Do you have any indication on how they did financially?
No, but according to their contract, they're due to present financials by December 31st. So we'll request that and get that information.
Roman,
Yes.
I heard that the food was wonderful. Did we have to supplement the amount that was charged for that?
No. I don't remember the exact specifics of the event, but no, there was no supplementing. That food was all paid for out of the entry fees.
Wow, okay.
Okay, so, and then I've got a couple items under procurement. The range tee and bunker project that was signed with Bowditch Excavating, they began work on the 7th of November. We closed the driving range for the season on the 14th, so they could strip the tee and begin leveling that and prepping it for new sod. And now they're on the golf course, so they're on the golf course, going through bunkers that we've marked for new sod. So they're prepping the areas right now and laying down new sod beginning on the 30th. And then this,
Roman, excuse
yeah,
me,
go ahead.
just, will sod take now?
Yes, it sure will. And anything that doesn't take it, there will be no damage. It'll just it'll make it through the winter and take in the spring as it needs to. And then the second item of procurement, the short course and putting complex design. That contract is, I expected to be able to say that was signed. There's just some haggling over legal language between Richard Mandel, golf course architects, and the town administrator's office is handling that. It's just little stuff about insurance, so that has not been signed yet. But I'll let you know what it is, and it should be soon. That project will be directed by the town administrator.
So they haven't started that?
No, they haven't. No,
Con-
I don't have a signed contract yet. The town administrator can sign that contract himself. That does not need to go to the Board of Selectmen because it's under $50,000. But they are still, last I saw, haggling over a few items of insurance.
Okay.
questions.
Roman, do you have any reason why he's directing it?
No, he chose the vendor and he's directing the procurement. I have no reason on that.
Yeah, one meeting, they took things away from us, right, Paul? And,
I
It was announced-
have no
it was announced
problem.
that they were gonna do the
Yeah.
procurement.
Yeah, I have no problem, but it would seem like, unless you don't have the time, Roman, it's much more appropriate to have Roman direct the project than the town
No, well, I
administrator.
mean, I'm sorry, he's directing it through me, I think, so I'll be involved in the process, yeah. Under his leadership, and then I'll present anything that is presentable at meetings as appropriate.
Yeah, I have no problem with him taking away from us, but
as long as you have input
I'm
into
sure
it.
I'm sure he doesn't want me involved, I think it's just under him, I'm gonna be meeting with the architect, and he'll be making any big decisions that need to be made.
And,
Okay.
and what was that, a financial award?
$40,000.
40,000.
Is there any kind of a timetable on that, Roman?
Not yet.
You don't know what you're getting into till you get into it, I know that, but,
Not yet, I think we'll get a better sense once the contract is signed and we actually have
Okay.
discussions with Richard Mandel.
thank you.
Roman,
He is planning on coming up here to begin the project as soon as he can, and that's one of the issues they're discussing is just his insurance related to his travel here, related to his car insurance, and related to workers' compensation. He's worried about that because he's really excited to get here and start working.
Where's he from?
He's from North Carolina, Pinehurst.
Oh,
Roman, in the feedback you shared with us when we were on that subcommittee, none of the bids came in under $65,000. How are they going to deal with that issue?
Oh, so, you know, what the architects bid out was the entire project through the construction phases. And as you know, Jack, we weren't looking for construction phase issues. So those issues were not even looked at. We're strictly looking at the design phases of the project. So when we strip down each submission to just the design phases, that's where Mandel was singled out at $40,000. That's what he submitted for just the design.
Roman, at some point, are you going to do a financial feasibility study of the project?
Yeah, as part of this procurement, Richard Mandel will provide us with feasibility. That's part of the project he's doing. I'm sorry, I didn't mention that, Jack, is design and feasibility. So that'll be
Financial
included.
feasibility?
Yes.
Okay.
And then, we already covered rates and fees. Basically, that was approved on the 21st of November. And then I met with the facility manager, as I mentioned I would at the last meeting at the golf course, just to go through the clubhouse building. There's a few notes on here of what he's working on this winter at the clubhouse. I'll read it. This winter, we'll install new railings on the restaurant deck and rebuild the stairs and pressure wash the deck. If time allows to do that to the front porch of the clubhouse as well. If not, he will do that next year. He's getting a quote to install new doors on the restaurant porch where you enter from, at the turn basically to go to the grab and go area. And in the capital plan, he has a new heating and cooling system for the clubhouse, including a conversion to electric and a high efficiency electric hot water system. I believe that's in FY26 is where he has that. That's all out of the facility maintenance budget, so that's not out of golf funds.
Oh, facility maintenance, okay.
And that's all I had for you there. Let me go through Sean's report real fast.
this is Sean's work for the winter.
Okay, sorry for the lateness of this. This came in yesterday, but Sean put this together about his winter work on the golf course. And I'll just read it right from Sean's report. Every year we have a process of prepping the golf course for the winter. These are a few activities that will occur. Blowing out the irrigation system, removing all ball washers and trash containers, trimming low branches and clearing out areas from debris, deep tining greens and top dressing, late fall fertilizer applications, bunker maintenance, edging and adding sand, equipment maintenance work, repairing and sharpening of all equipment, removing fountains from ponds, take down standing dead trees around the golf course, and snow mold application on greens. Winter weather plays a major role in how much we can get done on the golf course. Bunker renovation and driving range sod replacement have started. We're laying down sod on November 30th, as I just mentioned. And then, just so you know, there are a few dates. So December 12th will be the day that we go to temporary greens for the winter and shut down the golf carts for the winter. I've been in touch with the golf cart vendor. They're gonna come winterize the golf carts after that date. And next Monday, we're gonna have no back nine play because we're gonna have a outside vendor coming to vertidrain the greens. That's a process we do every fall as we put the greens to bed for winter. And that's that. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy.
Roman, at one of the meetings earlier this year, we talked about the perception of the pads, the teeing pads, and how difficult they are to use with a tee. Is any change been,
Oh, the range mats,
Range mats.
no, I don't expect anything there. What we can look at is some companies sell things. We can maybe offer some products in the pro shop that would help with tee retrieval. But those,
I mean,
that tee line is really, has a long shelf life, and I don't expect to replace it anytime soon.
I don't know whether you need to replace it, but I've been in ranges where they have a little, basically, it's a holder. You stick the tee in the holder, and I mean, it's, having tried to use them, I mean,
I've used those also. I think that's just a specific type of mat that has that
that's a mat,
installed in it. That's
not
not like a T line like we
Okay.
have, because we have concrete directly underneath the mat there, under the T line. So those aren't individual mats. That's just one long strip of turf.
okay.
Do you know the approximate cost to replace a mat of that length?
Yeah. So the number like 30,000 comes to mind when we originally put it down. I think when that's what it cost us to originally have it installed. I think it was around 30,000. That was a few years ago. But they have a long shelf life. I mean, and they are in very good shape still. They hold up very well.
We also talked about the town doing a full engineer's report on the clubhouse. So as we're going to do these little upgrades and maintenance, maybe it would be a really good idea to get a picture of really what kind of shape the clubhouse is in.
Okay. Well, so I ask that every year when I meet with the facility manager. I'm not sure if anybody would back us spending money to hire an engineer to do that. Maybe the new engineer the town's going to hire could do that. But our facility manager, I believe, is very capable of doing that. And he felt the building is in very good shape. In fact, he even mentioned this is one of the newer buildings in town, being built in 2001 is when it was built. So, but no, he thinks that when it's upgraded to electric utilities, for the most part, that's really the big thing that he wants to do is upgrade to the electric hot water heater, upgrade to electric heating systems, make it more efficient in that way.
Okay. And then the septic system, I think we were going to try to pursue that. Can we expand that to get more capacity, perhaps in the dining facility?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, so we could always check with the new, well, she's not new anymore, the new health director who does set those capacity limits. But that was something that the previous restaurant vendor, Ron Leider, was interested in his first year. And then he said, no, I'm not interested in this anymore because we have all the capacity we need. We don't ever come near reaching our capacity. So he kept some data on the actual levels, because really that's based on, the capacity is based on the amount that the dishwasher can handle. And really, they've never reached anywhere near their capacity to where that's something they want to pursue. I've even discussed that with the managers of Jake's, and they're not really, I mean, they've never had a capacity problem, so they're not interested in pursuing that right now. One thing they are interested in pursuing possibly is a new walk-in cooler. So I've discussed that with them. They, according to their contract, can recommend projects out of our budget annually, out of a specific line item. So I'm working with them and the facility manager, Sean Libby, on either doing the doors this year or doing a walk-in cooler, based on bids we get back or based on quotes we get back. So that's in process right now. But that's really, their priority would be a walk-in cooler.
I just remember the year we had to go to paper plates and cups if you were sitting, if the capacity were a certain amount, we had to go to that, and maybe that changed.
It could, yeah. So we can check with the new health
That could
director.
have been
but-
the washing machine.
Yes, so and that's why. So I mean, for a large event, for shotgun events, we always go to paper and plastic just for that reason, yeah. For all
55
shotgun
people.
events, we do paper and plastic.
I don't think that's a
55.
big deal. Carol, do you want to state anything about the webpage, or?
Oh, just that this is the webpage, and I happened to go to look at it and noticed it was taken down. I had no idea how that happened. I think through you, Martha, we checked with Don, and he didn't, and then
I think
you
it's
asked
the
Roman, and it was
I think it's
town
the
administration.
Downtown.
Took it down.
Downstairs.
Yeah, but, you know, it's not that it was embarrassing, maybe a little embarrassing to go to it and have it taken down without being told that it was. It just seemed like, so we went from a webpage that had,
Maybe they have something new that they're gonna put
I
up.
think that it was pointed out at one of our meetings,
Yeah.
by Mr. Howell, that there was erroneous information on it. And so, and when the town administrator heard that, he said, hey, take that down, it's got bad information on it, is my thought.
yeah.
I think that's what it was,
And
too.
that's fine, it's just that it would have been nice to know. And then the next question is, so can something else be replaced in its stead? We have, and I don't know what, if anything, just looking at the captain's website, which has a huge amount of information for anyone who wanted to, I mean, including monthly financials for members of the public, residents of the town of Harwich. Everything that you want to know about captains is on that website. Ours is a little lacking in information, and perhaps there is a way of getting more information out there other than who is on the committee and their telephone numbers. Just a thought. I mean, I think Clem must have been the person who did this, and remember our vision statements and mission statements that we spent a long time going through. We probably don't even have a right now to have a mission statement and a vision statement. I don't know. But I think that would be something that if we do have an opportunity to talk to the select board about our roles and responsibilities, what beyond that can we do?
Okay. I want to thank you all for doing the open meeting law presentation. I think that's the beginning. So if we have nothing else to bring to the committee, I'd like to make a motion to, does the public like to say anything right now? That we move to close the meeting, and I will be in touch with you about future ones. I think then I'll be working, hopefully getting a full committee. I think once we have a full committee, we've been through, if we care to have a workshop, and then I think it would be appropriate, I know by the town charter, the offices should be appointed, voted on, probably sometime in June, in the new year. which is June to August.
Martha,
So,
our next meeting is in December?
no, no.
No.
No, we're not having one.
Okay, so we will
I will
resume.
let people know when we will have our next.
Are members of the committee interested in the summertime of meeting more than once a month?
I think if there are issues that we feel we need to spend more time on, I would be agreeable to that. But I'm not going to make that
Yeah,
motion now.
I think we could take a look
Yeah.
at things as we move along.
As
and-
we
and
move along.
As needed, if we needed to schedule additional time, but.
Right.
I mean, I don't know about others, but I serve on like 3 boards, and
Yeah,
if I get another regular, that'll complicate life a little bit. I don't mind if it happens occasionally, but, you know, I'd say, just think about it, and if we need to do it, we do it.
if we need to,
Yeah, I think it's a good idea to be flexible.
right.
Did you have another item on the agenda?
No,
You didn't have suggestions for improvements?
for what? For the old business?
continued
Oh,
discussion.
this is, we're still on new business. I thought you
Old
were going to
business.
move to adjourn, and I thought.
No, we went through the old business,
Got it.
okay?
Got it.
Move to close the meeting?
I make such a motion.
Second?
All in favor?
I'm
Aye.
confused, though.
I am
thought you said
confused
there
too,
was-
Martha.
There was
Old
other
business.
things.
I already went through the old.
You did?
We talked about the facility. We talked about your issue, discussion of the webpage, and I thanked everybody for doing the open meeting law.
I'm sorry, I thought it was concerns regarding facilities, safety, and operational observations. Because
Is there anything that
Well-
we've missed? I'm
well,
sorry.
I'm sorry, too. I thought that was that discussion we had about improvements of, and I don't know if you wanted to renew that discussion, which was like, we talked about ceiling fans, we talked about putting up signs to,
Oh,
that's what I thought you meant.
I'm sorry. I thought it was about the facility. So are things you would like to bring up, Carol?
Well, those are things we already discussed, better lighting in the restaurant.
Right,
Ceiling fans. We talked about doing a backstop at the end of the range, and I don't know what progress we made on that. I thought we might want to discuss that. Security systems for the cart barn.
I did cover the security system, and it's going out to bid, correct?
It's, it's an open ticket with the town's IT department right now, so the IT department is getting quotes for it.
Have you, and we talked about the fans and the lighting, and is that sort of on hold right now?
Well, when the
Roman.
facilities manager's team comes in, I'll ask them about those issues. I'll discuss also when I have a winter meeting with the restaurant about lighting inside, because it's up to them how they wanna, I can make suggestions, but it's up to them how they wanna light the room
Yeah,
in there. But as far as the ceiling fans go, I'll mention it to the facility manager to check them out. What he did say was, he said the only reason they really have those there is to keep mold off the ceiling when water accumulates up there, and their solution for that is to pressure wash every season with bleach, which they did last week. So that may make the ceiling fans not need so much, but
Well,
we'll see. They'll be up there fixing the sconces. Yeah. But they did, it looks really nice right now. They pressure washed the whole deck and sealed
They're
it.
gonna work on railings, as I understand it?
Yes.
I think that was part of what Carol had
They're
mentioned
replacing all
earlier.
the railings.
yeah, the
Okay.
railings.
Didn't you mention, Carol, also that there was a ceiling fan that's falling down?
yeah, I mean, they were. the staff said they won't turn them on because they're afraid they would fly off and hurt someone.
Is that outside, Carol?
They're outside, yeah, Paul. And actually, I mean, it was bloody hot out there a couple of days, and people were requesting the fans. So, you know, I guess we either take them down and then cap them or make them operational, but
I don't think it would take much to,
I'll have them take a look at it. They're just to add a balance. So when they turn them on, they rattle a lot, and they make some noise because they're just not in balance. I can have them look at them when they're up fixing the sconces.
and what about
Fran?
Is it appropriate? for
yes,
me to-
yes.
Yeah, Fran, now you sound like an advisory board, you know, what you're discussing now.
I'm sorry, could
Whereas-
you identify yourself for us?
Fran Riz, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
But when Roman presented his budget, you discussed it at that time. Would it be more appropriate to discuss the budget prior to Roman's presentation and then advise him before he makes the budget? It sounded like you were too involved in the budget, where maybe you should have advised him prior to that, like you are now. You're advising about the tee box, not the tee box, but the practice range, and you know, people have comments maybe, oh, we should have gotten maroon carts instead of blue carts. I mean, that's what you advise. Whereas, you know, I don't need to repeat, but that's my comment.
No, I think you're right. We have had these discussions. We've gone over all of this, Fran, and so, and Roman has heard it, and so I think he does, I think you do take all of this into consideration, but I don't know where we stand on all of this, so that's why I'm asking. Is that what you meant,
Well,
Fran?
no, I just thought when I was here for the budget meeting, that you were going back and forth rather than advising. It seems like you should meet as a group prior to, and give advice to Roman what you consider the budget should be. And then he takes it under advisement and then presents his budget. Whereas at that meeting, you were going back and forth, not advising, really.
Okay, no, I think I understand that. Thank you.
Well, there were two presentations of the budget. There was 1 week where the public was not encouraged to come, and the budget was presented to us, and we had discussions about it. And I can remember at the end, because I was in charge that night, it was the night Clem couldn't make it. And I said to Roman, after we had all these discussions, I said to him, I said, Roman, would you be kind enough to take the things that we discussed and look at them and see if you would like to make changes, correct?
Correct.
And then the next meeting, there were no changes. And that's your choice, but there were no changes.
So excuse me, Martha, rather than budget, we're talking about the rates and fees.
Yeah,
business,
the
right?
rates and fees.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so when the public were invited, they were talking about different issues. But the budget was presented to us as Roman felt it should be. And so there wasn't room for us to make changes, I didn't think.
I think, Fran, what you're saying is the things that we are discussing should go to Roman. If we think they're important, he decides if they are important, and he will put figures to them in the plan. We come up with our short-term goals and our long-term goals. We present them Roman either chooses to adopt them or not, and then he will put a figure to them.
I understand that, but you took a vote on that, whereas what do you vote on and what do you not vote on? You know, you took a vote on the budget, but you don't take a vote on what you're discussing right now.
I don't think we took a vote on the budget.
Yes,
Yeah, we
Well, on the
did.
rates and fees we did.
Rates and fees.
Yes,
Rates
again,
and
we
fees,
should, we
not on
shouldn't
the-
call it the
not on
budget.
his budget.
Well, what he recommended.
Rates and
Yeah,
fees.
rates and
Rates and
fees.
fees, not budget.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I used the wrong term, but you did vote on something, so,
Yeah, we did.
And
We
we
did.
tied 3-3.
yeah.
Right, he presented them in one meeting. We discussed it. He took it back to and as Martha said, she said, will you take this under advisement? He did. He made his decision not to change those. So, and then we voted and we were 3-3.
And hopefully, on a go-forward basis, as we focus in on going forward, we'll rebuild this credibility so that when Roman goes to present things to the town administrator and/or the board, the select board, or through the town administrator to the select board, they ask a fairly common question, which is, how did the golf committee feel about this? And Roman can say, oh, they tied 3-3, so clearly there was not a strong consensus, so I'm going with my recommendation, which is perfectly fine and his right. Or, geez, no, or hopefully, more times than not, it's gonna be, yes, I have the full support of the golf committee on this recommendation. And I believe it's the right thing, the golf committee believes it, and that gets acknowledged and part of the decision-making process. It can still be overridden by the TA, still, and/or his decision can still be overridden by the select board. But that's where I think we want to get to, is that we get viewed as a valuable advisory board, and that one of the questions they always ask is, hey, what the heck did the golf committee think? And
Six of the 8 years I've presented it, I've presented in my memo that it's been a unanimously, it was brought to a public hearing, and the golf committee unanimously adopted to,
And
my
that's great.
recommendation.
Well,
endorse the
yeah,
recommendation.
and in this last instance, if the board wanted to know why it was 3-3, what was the dissenting reasons, they could have asked, or perhaps in the future, we might have a share what the dissent was.
or as another option, they could view the meeting. Because it was an open discussion that is recorded, and
Right.
they have every capability to go back and say, geez, I wonder how they got to a 3-3
Yeah.
vote on this, and they'd see everybody's comments.
Right. That's their choice, I guess. So Martha, now I understand why you thought I was, why is she thinking that we should not adjourn this meeting?
Can we adjourn it?
Well, we have a motion before us.
We have a motion before us to adjourn. I
Anybody-
second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much.
Thank